Imagine this. You're a German soldier on the Eastern Front. It's freezing, it's pitch black, and you are terrified. But you're not scared of tanks or artillery.
You're scared of a sound. A weird, soft, whooshing sound coming from the sky. To the soldiers freezing in their trenches, it sounded like a witch's broomstick. Then came the chilling silence. And then, bam! Total hell from above. The German generals had no idea what was happening. These ghost attacks were precise, they were relentless, and they came out of nowhere, creating chaos night after night. So, who were these pilots? Not some veteran male pilots. They were young women, basically teenagers, flying planes made of wood and cloth. I am not kidding. They were the 588th Night Bomber Regiment. The Nazis were so scared, they gave them an insane nickname, the Night Witches. But to understand how we got here, we have to go back to 1941. Hitler has just invaded the Soviet Union, and it is a total disaster. The German army is just destroying everything, using blitzkrieg tactics to overwhelm the Red Army. Millions of soldiers were killed. The Soviet Air Force, gone. Wiped out on the ground before they could even take off. The situation was catastrophic. With the German army just miles from Moscow, the Soviet Union was literally fighting to survive. And in this dark hour, people from all over the country volunteered to defend the motherland. Among them were thousands of women who wanted to do more than be nurses or factory workers. These women were trained pilots from civilian flying clubs, and they wanted to fight. But the military said no. Combat was for men. But one woman, a massive celebrity in the Soviet Union, was not taking no for an answer. Her name was Marina Raskova, and she was about to change aerial warfare forever. Okay, so Marina Raskova was a mega star in the Soviet Union. She was a record-breaking pilot, the Soviet Amelia Earhart, a national hero. And get this, she had a direct line to Joseph Stalin himself. She could literally call him. When the war started, Raskova got tons of letters from women begging for a chance to fly in combat. So, she took those letters and went straight to the top. In September 1941, she told Stalin, "We are losing this war, and you're leaving thousands of incredible female pilots on the bench. This is a crime." And Stalin, who was desperate and facing defeat, said yes. On October 8, 1941, he secretly ordered the creation of 3 all-female air regiments. This had never been done before. These weren't just units with women in them. They were run entirely by women, pilots, navigators, mechanics, everyone. Raskova interviewed thousands of volunteers herself. The women she picked were basically kids. Most were 17 to 26 years old. They were students and workers, all fired up to defend their country. They were sent to a remote training base in Engels, where they had to cram years of training into just a few months. Life at Engels was absolutely brutal. They got terrible hand-me-down male uniforms. Their boots were so big, they had to stuff them with cloth just to walk. And the male soldiers, they just laughed at them, mocking the little girls playing war. The disrespect was everywhere. While Raskova got advanced bombers for the other 2 female regiments, the 588th got the most basic plane you can imagine, the Polikarpov Po-2. This thing was a relic from the 1920s. It was made of wood and canvas. It was a crop duster. It had no armor, no radio, and for the first few years, no parachutes because they were too heavy. This is the crazy part. Their top speed was slower than the slowest speed of the German fighter planes. The German planes literally couldn't slow down enough to shoot them easily. The Po-2 was so flammable that one tracer bullet could turn it into a flying bonfire. The women called it the kukuruznik, or corn duster. Some just called it a coffin with wings. Their training was insane, 16 hours a day. They learned to fly at night with just a map, a compass, a stopwatch, and a flashlight. In the insane Soviet winter, this was torture. The open cockpits exposed them to winds so cold, they got frostbite constantly. It was so cold that if you touched bare metal, your skin would rip right off, instantly. But through all this, these women became a family. They called themselves Raskova's Own, and they were going to prove everyone wrong. In May 1942, the 588th was sent to the front lines. Their mission? Fly behind enemy lines every single night, cause absolute chaos, and destroy German morale by never letting them sleep. And this is where their terrible plane became their secret weapon. Because it was made of wood and canvas, German radar couldn't even see it. They were basically stealth bombers. It was so slow and light, it could make crazy sharp turns that other planes couldn't follow. It could take off and land from anywhere, but their tactics were even crazier. Okay, get this. They flew in groups of 3. 2 planes would fly right into the German searchlights on purpose. They were decoys. The searchlights would lock on, the anti-aircraft guns would go crazy, and the decoy pilots would have to dodge a storm of explosions. While all that chaos was happening, the 3rd plane would cut its engine. It would just glide silently through the dark over the target. The only thing the Germans could hear was that creepy whoosh sound. Then, the navigator would literally lean out of the plane and drop the bombs by hand. After the drop, they'd restart the engine and disappear into the night. They would do this over and over and over, switching roles until all 3 had dropped their bombs. Every single night was a trip into a frozen hell. They'd spend their days trying to sleep, fixing their planes, and getting ready for the next mission. At dusk, they'd get their orders. The 2-person crews would walk to their planes. They had their own rituals, like painting flowers on the fuselages. They even used their navigation pencils as eyeliner. It was their way of saying, "Be proud you are a woman." Navigating in total darkness with just a map and compass was a huge challenge. The navigator had to be perfect. One of the best was Yevgenia Rudneva, an astronomy student. "I want to devote my life to science," she wrote. "But if necessary, I will forget astronomy, and I will become a fighter." Because their planes were so small, they could only carry 2 bombs. 2! So, to do any real damage, they had to fly mission after mission. Some crews flew anywhere from 8 to 18 missions in one night. Can you even imagine how exhausting that would be? Nadezhda Popova, one of the regiment's biggest legends, once flew 18 missions in a single night. She remembered coming back with her plane completely full of holes. On one flight, she counted 42 bullet holes in her plane, her map, and even her helmet. She later said, "I sometimes stare into the blackness, and I ask myself, Nadia, how did you do it?" You can't even imagine what this did to the German soldiers. They were getting no sleep. They were terrified. They were constantly anxious. The silent gliding attacks felt supernatural. The Germans started spreading these crazy rumors that the pilots were criminals who were given special injections to see in the dark like cats. They were that desperate for an explanation. It was the Germans who gave them their legendary nickname. Frustrated by the whistling sound they heard before every bombing, they called them Nachthexen, the night witches. It was meant as an insult, a way to dehumanize them. But the women loved it. They wore it like a badge of honor. It meant they were winning. Their success got so frustrating that the German high command put a bounty on them. Any German pilot who shot down a night witch would instantly get the Iron Cross medal. But shooting them down was nearly impossible. The German aces in their fancy Messerschmitts just couldn't hit them. Trying to shoot a Po-2 with a German fighter was like trying to swat a fly with a sledgehammer. It just didn't work. For the most part, the night witches owned the dark. But behind this insane legend were real people, a close-knit family bound by incredible courage. In total, they lost 32 of their sisters in action during the war. Remember Nadezhda Popova, the 18-mission-a-night pilot? Her story is crazy. Her brother had been killed by the Nazis. She ended up flying 852 missions. On one of them, she was shot down. While she was walking back to base, she met another downed pilot. They fell in love and got married after the war. And then there's Irina Sebreva. She flew 1,008 missions. That is the most of any female pilot in the entire war. She was known for being unbelievably calm under pressure. And Yevgenia Rudneva, the brilliant astronomer who wanted to study science. She flew 645 missions as a navigator before her plane was shot down over Crimea. She was killed in action and named a hero of the Soviet Union. "You will always remember them," she wrote about her fallen friends, "if you go through the war together." By the end of the war, the Night Witches had flown 24,000 combat missions. They dropped over 3,000 tons of bombs. They destroyed bridges, railways, supply depots, and armored cars. Their contribution was immeasurable, not just in damage, but in the psychological terror they inflicted on an army that thought it was invincible. They became one of the most decorated units in the entire Soviet Air Force. 23 of them were awarded the title of Hero of the Soviet Union, which is the biggest award you can possibly get. Their last mission was bombing German positions just outside Berlin, only 3 days before Germany surrendered. But this is where the story gets really sad. The Night Witches Regiment was just gone. Disbanded unceremoniously in October 1945, just months after the war, and they weren't even invited to the massive victory parade in Moscow. The excuse? Their planes were too slow. Unbelievable. After facing down enemy fire, prejudice, and haunting an entire army, they were pushed aside by the very system they fought for. For decades, their story was basically forgotten. But today, we remember the legend of the Night Witches, a powerful testament to a small group of young women who, with nothing but courage and wooden planes, climbed into the night and became queens of the sky. If you think these women are absolute legends, smash that like button and subscribe for more insane stories like this one. And comment below who we should cover next. Thanks for watching.